90 years ago, on February 6, 1936, the 1936 Winter Olympics were opened in the market town of Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Nazi Germany. Later that year, the country also hosted the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin. It was the last year in which the Summer and Winter Olympic Games took place in the same country. The cancelled 1940 Olympics would have been held in Japan, with Tokyo hosting the Summer Games and Sapporo hosting the Winter Games. Sapporo subsequently hosted the 1972 Winter Olympics, becoming the first city in Asia to host the Winter Olympics. On February 6, 1958, the Munich air disaster occurred when British European Airways Flight 609 and Airspeed AS-57 Ambassador crashed on its third attempt to take off at Munich-Rhein Airport in Munich, West Germany. The plane was transporting the Manchester United squad known as the Busby Babes, along with fans and members of the press. There were 44 people on board. 20 were killed instantly. The wounded, some of them unconscious, were taken to Munich's Reste-Itza hospital, where 3 more later died. This brought the death toll to 23, leaving 21 survivors. The team was flying back from a European Cup match in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, now Serbia, where they had knocked out Red Star Belgrade to reach the semi-finals. Because the Elizabethan-class Airspeed Ambassador could not fly non-stop from Belgrade to Manchester, the aircraft stopped in Munich to refuel. After refueling, pilots James Thane and Kenneth Rayment twice aborted takeoff due to a surge in the left engine. Worried about delays, Thane decided against staying overnight and chose to attempt a third takeoff. By then, snowfall had left a layer of slush at the end of the runway. When the plane hit the slush, it failed to gain enough speed, crashed through a fence, and lost its left wing after striking a house. The rear section broke away and hit a barn containing a fuel truck, which caught fire and exploded. Fearing a further explosion, Thane began evacuating passengers, while goalkeeper Harry Gregg helped pull survivors from the wreckage. An initial investigation by West German authorities blamed Thane, claiming he had not de-iced the wings, even though witnesses said de-icing was unnecessary. A later inquiry by the United Kingdom Board of Trade in 1969 concluded that the real cause was slush on the runway, slowing the aircraft too much for takeoff, and that Thane was not at fault. At the time, United were chasing a third straight football league title. They were 6 points behind leaders Wolverhampton Wanderers with 14 matches remaining, and they held the FA Charity Shield, had just reached their second consecutive European Cup semi-final, and were unbeaten in 11 games. The disaster not only ended their title hopes and season, but also wiped out the core of what was expected to become one of the greatest teams in English football. The club needed a decade to recover. Busby eventually rebuilt the side and won the European Cup in 1968 with a new generation of babes. And 30 years ago, on February 6, 1996, Birgenair Flight 301, a Boeing 757-225 from Gregorio Luperon International Airport in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic to Frankfurt Airport in Frankfurt, Germany, with a stopover in Gander International Airport, Gander, Newfoundland, and Labrador, Canada, and Berlin Schönefeld Airport, Berlin, Germany, crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, 26 kilometers northeast of Gregorio Luperon International Airport, Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. All 189 passengers and crew members were killed. Investigators concluded that the crash resulted from pilot error after the crew was given faulty airspeed readings from one of the pitot tubes, which was later thought to have been blocked by a wasp nest. The aircraft had been left idle for 20 days, and for the 2 days before the accident, the pitot tubes had not been covered, allowing the obstruction to form. Birgenair 301 is tied with American Airlines Flight 77 as the deadliest accident involving a Boeing 757, with 189 people killed. It is also the worst aviation disaster ever recorded in the Dominican Republic. There were 167 Germans, 11 Turks, 9 Poles, and 2 Dominican Republicans. The flight crew consists of 61-year-old Captain Ahmed Erdan, who has logged 24,750 flight hours, including 1,875 on the Boeing 757. The first officer was 34-year-old Aykut Gurgen, with 3,500 total flight hours, though only 71 of those were on the Boeing 757. And the relief pilot, Mulis Evrenesoglu, 51, had accumulated 15,000 flight hours overall, with 121 hours on the Boeing 757. There were also 2 notable passengers on board, and they're both Polish. There is Zbigniew Gorzelanczyk, 51, of the Democratic Left Alliance, and Marek Wielkos, 45, of the Nonpartisan Bloc for Support of Reforms. Most of the passengers had booked Caribbean package holidays with Uyghur Tours. Birgenair held 10% of Uyghur Tours. Soon after the crash of Birgenair Flight 301, the airline's reputation and finances suffered severely, and several of its aircraft were grounded. Ongoing safety concerns led to a sharp drop in passengers, and Birgenair declared bankruptcy in October of that same year. Both the crash and the wave of negative publicity played a major role in the company's collapse. The accident also impacted other Turkish charter airlines, some of which shut down within months. Additionally, the crash effectively marked the end of the Tupolev Tu-154 and Yak-42 era in Turkey. Also big news. Today, the 2026 Winter Olympics will open in Milan, Italy. The joint Milan Cortina d'Ampezzo bid won the right to host the 2026 Winter Olympics at the 134th IOC session in June 2019, defeating a rival bid from Stockholm and Åre in Sweden. Branded as Milano Cortina 2026, the Games will be the first Olympics officially co-hosted by 2 cities, with Milan mainly staging the ice sports. The rest of the events will be spread across clusters in and around Cortina, as well as the Valtellina and Fiemme valleys. This will be Italy's 3rd Winter Olympics and 4th Olympic Games overall. Cortina d'Ampezzo previously hosted the 1956 Winter Games. The 2026 Olympics will introduce ski mountaineering as a new event and will also be the first games held under the IOC presidency of Kirsty Coventry. The Games will be officially opened by Italy's president Sergio Mattarella. This edition also marks several milestones: the 70th anniversary of the 1956 Winter Olympics, the 20th anniversary of the 2006 Winter Olympics, and the anniversary of the Italian Republic. Well, that's all I have for today. I am so looking forward to watching the Olympic Games. So, if you like what you see, don't forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe. That's all I have. Be sure to watch the games and have a great time. Good luck.